David just can't handle that I'm just not gonna go date.
We really have to live our life for the best for us.
Christine built the family, but now she's watching them gather without her. It's no surprise that Janelle is the one surrounded by grandkids these days. Her life at this stage orbits around her children and their children, a comforting maternal gravity that naturally pulls the family toward her. Christine, by contrast, has shifted focus. Her children are grown. Her days of diaper duty and teenage drama are over, and her energy now belongs to David. That shift may not make her an inattentive grandmother, but it does make Janelle the more grounded one. The grandmother who colors with the kids for the joy of it, not merely to keep them busy. The family's current migration toward Janelle has far less to do with choosing sides and far more to do with circumstance and comfort. After Garrison's death, her home became an emotional refuge, a place where grief could quietly coexist with the laughter of small children. The kids rallying around her isn't a rejection of Christine, it's a collective act of love toward a mother who lost her son. Meanwhile, Mickelty and Tony's move to North Carolina was driven not by maternal allegiance, but by practicality. Tony's work, proximity to cousins, and the convenience of family all within a few hours' reach. Peyton's decision to relocate follows the same thread of logic. His close bond with Janelle's boys and with Garrison made the move emotionally inevitable. His heartbreak over losing his brother was palpable. And now, being near Maddie and her children offers him both connection and distraction, something grounding to do with his hands besides mourn. Christine's sadness is understandable. The children she raised, both hers and Janelle's, are scattering, creating lives that no longer orbit her. That's not rejection. That's adulthood. Still, there's an ache in watching her family cluster around someone else. For years, her identity was tethered to being the mom, the emotional nucleus of a sprawling, plural family. Now she's entering the quiet of an almost empty nest, while Janelle steps naturally into the role of grandmother and matriarch.
There's also a practical limitation to Christine's mobility. Were she not anchored to David's children, perhaps she might consider following her own. But she can hardly ask a man who finally prioritizes his kids to abandon them. It's an impossible situation. One part love, one part loss, all tangled in geography and loyalty. Then there's Maddie, the family's unsung anchor. Her home radiates warmth and normalcy, a Kody-free zone where no one pries and everyone breathes easier. She's long been the quiet center of gravity, the one who saw through Robin's manipulation years before anyone else dared to say it aloud. Kody once favored her, but his affection was always conditional, filtered through self-image and ego. Even tender moments, like being asked to officiate her wedding or having a grandchild named after him, left him expressionless, as though waiting for Robin's cue on how to react. Christine, for her part, has handled the family's shift with surprising grace. She's candid about her disappointment, but there's no bitterness in it, just the wistful honesty of a mother watching her children build their own lives. Her talking head interviews reveal more melancholy than malice. It's an honest admission of empty nest grief, not an outburst of resentment. The supposed choice between Janelle and Christine is largely a narrative illusion. Mickelty, Peyton, and the others aren't choosing grandmothers. They're choosing what fits their lives. Janelle's proximity to the grandkids, Peyton's search for roots, Maddie's stable home. These are individual decisions woven together by family ties, not loyalty contests. It's also worth remembering that Christine spent years raising not just her children, but Janelle's as well. Janelle has acknowledged Christine's tireless role in managing the household chaos while she herself focused on work and survival. It's poetic, then, that the two women now occupy opposite ends of the same spectrum. Janelle finally embracing hands-on motherhood and grandmotherhood, and Christine finally allowed to live a life defined by love rather than obligation. Critics calling Christine immature for prioritizing her relationship with David miss the point entirely. After decades of neglect and emotional starvation under Kody's thumb, Christine's pursuit of partnership, affection, and stability is not immaturity, it's liberation. Janelle's independence is admirable. Christine's desire for companionship is equally valid. Both women have carved out identities in the aftermath of a shared delusion, and both are finally living on their own terms. In truth, the only immaturity lies in expecting these women to keep competing for approval, whether it's Kody's, the kids, or the audience's. They've earned the right to stop performing and start living. He said he couldn't leave his family for his daughter's surgery, but that rule magically disappeared when it was Robin's kids. Few television experiences have showcased the art of selective parenting and performative empathy quite like Sister Wives. From Kody Brown's tone-deaf fatherhood to the women's baffling tolerance of it, the series has become a study in emotional imbalance and self-delusion. One of the most glaring offenses came during Kody's ill-fated attempt to teach Truly how to ride a bike. The scene, painful in every sense, revealed a man more concerned with control than compassion. Truly's visible discomfort and pleas to stop were dismissed, as if her distress were an inconvenience to his ego. The paternal instinct to nurture was nowhere to be found. Instead, Kody appeared determined to wring obedience from a frightened child under the guise of tough love. Then there was the Isabel debacle, perhaps the crown jewel of Kody's failures. Faced with his daughter's major surgery, he demonstrated an astonishing lack of involvement, compassion, or even basic decency. Suggesting she travel alone, claiming he couldn't be away from his family that long, while simultaneously refusing to show up for the operation itself, redefined neglect. Post-surgery, he could have offered to help with her pain management or recovery in any capacity. He chose not to. The message was clear. Isabel's suffering ranked well below his comfort level. And yet, when one of Robin's daughters experienced a panic attack, the man transformed into a storybook hero, swooping in, cradling her gently, and carrying her upstairs like a father plucked from a Hallmark movie. The contrast was grotesque. The blatant favoritism wasn't just visible, it was theatrical. If Isabel had been one of Robin's children, Kody would have been on the first plane, pandemic or not, armed with snacks, comfort speeches, and cameras to prove his devotion. The difference wasn't situational. It was emotional hierarchy. And everyone, including Isabel, knew it. Other moments of Kody's shining character include abandoning a near-perfect setup in Las Vegas, a cul-de-sac where the family finally had space, security, and community, just to chase yet another ill-conceived, fresh start. The exodus from Vegas symbolized not new beginnings, but a man's relentless pursuit of control disguised as divine inspiration. Then there's his repulsive, "get their pencil wet" remark about Gabe and Garrison, a phrase that stripped away any illusion of paternal respect. It was crude, unnecessary, and deeply revealing of his attitude toward his sons, viewing them not as maturing young men, but as punchlines to his own insecurity. Equally appalling was the infamous birthday call to Gabe, in which Kody managed to contact his son without uttering the words, "Happy birthday." Gabe's tearful reaction afterwards said it all. This was not the cold shoulder of a busy father. It was emotional punishment dressed as forgetfulness. Even Janelle, often the picture of composure, faltered in judgment when she agreed to a flirty birthday outing with Kody, after his public humiliation of her sons. Watching her beam beside the man who'd insulted and alienated her children was a sobering reminder that even the most grounded among the sister wives are capable of stunning lapses in self-respect. The appropriate response to such an invitation would have been simple: decline the dinner and tell him to call his kids. Across the seasons, one theme has remained constant: Kody's talent for grandstanding while neglecting the very people he claims to lead. Whether through neglect, favoritism, or tone-deaf arrogance, he has made sister wives less a show about plural marriage and more a long-running exhibit on how one man can dismantle his own family while insisting he's saving it. Kody Brown isn't a husband in love. He's a zealot, clinging to his last follower. Kody Brown's decision to marry Robin wasn't a misstep. It was a full-blown, self-inflicted collapse disguised as destiny. His relentless Robin worship has reached near religious levels, as though repeating, "she's perfect," enough times might turn delusion into doctrine. This season, his desperate efforts to secure her emotional and sexual devotion aren't romantic. They're panic in slow motion. Beneath the smug soulmate rhetoric lies a man terrified that his one remaining wife is halfway out the door, calculator in hand and child support laws on her side. The irony is exquisite. Kody spent years dodging accountability, but now lives in fear of the one woman who knows exactly how much their lavish lifestyle costs. His over-the-top declarations, Robyn as the most beautiful, the most special, the most righteous, reek not of love but of self-reassurance. This is not affection, it's insurance. He's worshiping her out loud in hopes she won't notice the wreckage around them. His manic insistence on their great love story feels less like romance and more like a man overcompensating for the smoking crater where his plural family used to be. Every other marriage crumbled under the weight of his favoritism, so now he must make the Robyn era look worth the casualties. To admit otherwise would mean acknowledging that he torched 3 decades of family life for someone as emotionally beige as she is dramatic. And Kody Brown's ego could never survive that reality check. Public image remains his love language. He parades Robyn as a trophy, desperate to convince the world and himself that his remaining marriage is proof of his dominance, not his downfall. The safe home he built for her, allegedly the hallmark of a real man, is another hollow performance. Meanwhile, Janelle was left in a trailer battling wildlife and water shortages, but apparently protection and stability only apply to the chosen one.
Even Robyn's shyness is spun into marketing strategy. The show's dwindling relevance depends on viewers believing she's a misunderstood romantic heroine instead of what she truly is, a willing co-star in Kody's vanity project. Together, they cling to the illusion of harmony, their exaggerated affection a smokescreen for mutual dissatisfaction. She no longer needs to compete for his attention, and he's discovering that life without chaos is, for him, a form of death. Their partnership, once fueled by shared enemies and endless drama, now sputters in the quiet aftermath. The wives are gone, the money is thinning, and the only battle left is against boredom. So they've retreated it into performance, pretending happiness, narrating their own myth, waiting for the next bit of reality TV chaos to keep them afloat. For now, Kody's still playing high priest in the Church of Robyn, but when the devotion dries up and the cameras fade, what will remain is a man who mistook obsession for love and control for commitment. If history is any indication, the downfall won't be quiet. It never is with Sellots.
Meri Brown's new romance isn't a love story, it's a script, and TLC is selling it like it's real. Of all the fabricated narratives Sister Wives has churned out in recent seasons, none are quite as insultingly contrived as Meri Brown's so-called dating storyline. The show has long traded in selective authenticity, but this one practically comes with a studio audience and cue cards. The speed dating episode, for instance, had all the hallmarks of a TLC stage production, a perfectly lit venue, neatly interchangeable participants, and a suspiciously camera-ready leading man. Enter Ron, the alleged romantic interest. His sudden appearance and instant compatibility feel less like serendipity and more like casting. Viewers are expected to believe Meri stumbled into this connection through a random event set up by her business partner Jen, yet the entire sequence reeks of prearrangement. It's far more plausible that Meri and Ron were already seeing each other and that the show crafted a retroactive meet-cute to fit the storyline. Meri's motives for this glossy presentation are, in their own way, understandable. After the debacle of introducing Amos too soon, only for that relationship to implode publicly, Meri appears determined to control the narrative. By rebranding her romance as something that just happened, she sidesteps the risk of looking desperate or impulsive. It's not romance she's selling. It's damage control dressed up as spontaneity. Even when someone claiming to run the actual speed dating company piped up to insist the event was real, it didn't exactly absolve the scene of its artificial flavor. Authenticity, after all, isn't confirmed by the presence of a real venue. It's in the energy of the participants. And on that front, this storyline is about as organic as a plastic rose. Of course, this isn't new behavior for the Browns. The family's history of televised fiction runs deep. Robin and Kody's chance meeting that conveniently launched just as cameras rolled, the supposed family game nights that looked suspiciously like filler footage, and the revisionist history of Christine and Janelle's friendship, now retold as a lifelong sisterhood forged in the trenches. In reality, none of the wives were particularly close while vying for Kody's attention. They were competitors in a polygamous pageant, each willing to sideline the others for even a moment of validation. The irony is that the only genuine moment this season seems to have come from Mykelti and Tony getting caught in a hailstorm, an unscripted disaster that, unlike Mary's dating life, didn't need a producer's touch. Ultimately, the Mary and Ron arc doesn't offend because it's fake. It offends because it's lazy. After years of manipulative editing and manufactured tension, TLC seems to think viewers can't tell the difference between authenticity and acting. But at this stage, the audience doesn't need more staged redemption arcs. They just need the truth, something Sister Wives hasn't speed dated with in quite some time. He spent years preaching about family unity. Now even Robin looks like she's counting down the days to solitude. Kody Brown has always treated relationships like a list of performance requirements. Other people's feelings apparently exist only within the framework of his approval. Last season, he declared that he would believe Christine was truly happy with David only when she stopped saying anything negative about him and Robin. This season, his logic has evolved, or rather devolved, to claiming he'll know Robin is comfortable with monogamy when she slaps him on the backside in public. It's difficult to tell whether he's joking or delusional, but either way, it's a spectacular example of how far his self-importance extends. Kody's constant need to dictate emotional terms reveals a deep insecurity that he can no longer hide. For once, he's admitting, albeit indirectly, that he fears Robin's affection isn't as secure as he once imagined. She is, after all, the last woman standing, and with no sister wives left to compete for his attention, his power dynamic has collapsed. There are no other wives to punish or reward, no rival affections to weaponize. Robin may be the favorite, but even she seems to have lost interest in performing for him now that there's no audience. His self-inflicted isolation is poetic justice. The man who once strutted between households like a polygamous peacock is now reduced to a single roost, and not a particularly affectionate one. His conditions are no longer met because his company simply isn't worth the cost. He sowed arrogance, control, and neglect. He's reaping rejection, disinterest, and a withering ego. By his own logic, Kody's unhappiness is written all over him. If Christine's criticism proves she's not happy, then his endless complaints about her must mean he's miserable with Robin. Christine doesn't need his permission to be joyful, nor does she need to censor the truth for his comfort. The negative things she's said aren't bitterness, they're evidence. Kody wasn't exposed by Christine's words. He was exposed by his own behavior. The tragicomic twist is that Kody still imagines himself as the one in control. He doesn't even realize how reactive he's become, how every demand and complaint is a response to a situation he created. When he had 3 wives pleading for intimacy, he withheld it. Now that he's been collectively rejected, he pines for connection. Robin never fulfilled his needs, but her effort mattered only when competition existed. Without it, the illusion of romance died alongside the illusion of leadership. Perhaps he should redirect his energy away from his supplement-fueled midlife bravado and toward introspection, though that would require a level of self-awareness Kody's never been known for. In the meantime, Robin might consider channeling her gift for consumer therapy into something practical. A lifelike doll, perhaps. Silent, compliant, and always available. The perfect sister wife at last.
Christine wanted freedom. Now she's mad everyone else found it too. It appears that the best friends forever alliance between Janelle and Christine is starting to crack, conveniently, just in time to give sister wives yet another storyline to flog. What began as a shared survival pact after Kody's implosion seems to be shifting into something less sisterly and more strategic. Christine, ever the emotional anchor of her own drama, has begun voicing frustration about everyone moving,
and the complexities of their joint business. It's a familiar setup. Christine laments, Janelle retreats, and TLC salivates. Her musings about doing her own thing sound suspiciously like the kind of pre-packaged foreshadowing the network adores. A breadcrumb trail leading to another round of tears, tension, and conveniently timed confessionals. At the heart of the speculation is their shared Plexus venture. Questions swirl about whether Janelle is part of Christine's downline, or if she's pulling away entirely. Rumor once had it that Janelle's sales outpaced Christine's, boosting Christine's earnings, a delightful irony, considering Janelle was cast as the more financially desperate one. Viewers even rallied to buy from Janelle because she needed the money, only to discover she was spending freely on a glorified RV adventure. The irony deepens. These women, bound by decades of shared chaos and mutual motherhood, were never true besties. Their bond was born from endurance, not affection. Now, with their lives diverging, Christine in her new Utah fairy tale with David, Janelle grounded, for now, in practical independence, the distance feels inevitable. TLC, of course, will edit this growing gap into a headline-grabbing feud. But the reality is far less explosive. Two women moving on with separate priorities and incompatible temperaments. Their business breakup may simply reflect new focus areas. Janelle, ever the pragmatist, gravitates towards stability. A t-shirt line here, some side projects there. Christine, perpetually chasing emotional fulfillment, leans into real estate and rentals. Nothing scandalous, unless of course you have a production team determined to make it one. Even their children's choices reveal the deeper contrast. Christine's brood, long accustomed to uprooting their lives at a moment's notice, are finally gravitating toward calmer terrain. North Carolina, with its steady job market and quiet domesticity, offers something Christine's world rarely did: consistency. Whether they're moving for family, work, or the peace that seems to follow Janelle, one thing is clear: Christine doesn't love losing her supporting cast, and therein lies the paradox. When Christine left Kody, she demanded autonomy: her home, her marriage, her rules. Now, as her children pursue their own versions of independence, she looks unsettled. Janelle, in contrast, remains the understated foil, less dramatic, more grounded, and content to let the spotlight pass her by. In the end, this conflict looks less like betrayal and more like evolution. Two women outgrowing a shared storyline. But don't expect TLC to show it that way. Quiet maturity doesn't sell ads. Manufactured tension does. And Christine, ever the performer, may not be done giving the network exactly what it craves. They keep saying Kody lost his wives to jealousy, but that's not true. He lost them the moment he abandoned their kids. If Kody Brown ever wonders why his wives fled en masse, someone needs to sit him down, perhaps with crayons and a diagram, and explain it slowly. They didn't leave because they suddenly outgrew polygamy or lost interest in his hair. They left because he abandoned their children. That's the root rot beneath all the showy chaos. The wives may each frame their exits differently, but the common denominator is his neglect as a father. The women have all evolved in their own ways, yes, but for mothers, children are non-negotiable. Watching a husband turn his back on them isn't something one simply moves past. For Janelle's sons, the betrayal cut especially deep. They were the ones who still expected a father, not an absentee landlord. Christine's kids, by contrast, likely never expected much. He'd been emotionally absent from them for years. His disinterest in his daughters in particular suggests a man who values his offspring only when they reflect his own image back at him. Even Robin's children, supposedly the chosen few, don't seem to hold his sustained attention. Solomon, the more sensitive one, hardly fits the macho mold Kody admires, and Robin, in her anxiety, overcompensates with smothering affection that can't disguise the growing distance. The irony is that Kody hasn't just lost the wives, he's lost his audience. His once fervent claims of being a present father crumble under the footage of a man confusing financial provision with genuine parenting. In his mind, sending checks and filming family outings for TLC equates to fatherhood. After all, compared to his own cold and domineering father, Kody probably sees himself as a generational upgrade. He was playful once, perhaps even affectionate in the early years, but somewhere between the TV fame and his own ego, he mistook being on camera with being involved.
What he fails to grasp is that abandonment doesn't require physical distance. It's felt in the emotional vacuum left behind. The children were still minors when he began selectively acknowledging only Robin's kids. His infamous slip, referring to the others as Christine's kids until his own brother corrected him, wasn't a mistake. It was a Freudian confession. Yet the show's producers never press him on this. One almost suspects a quiet agreement that Kody's parental failures remain off-limits, lest they derail the fragile illusion of plural harmony. It's a pity, really, because that moment of public self-exposure could have been the most revealing in years. Christine's exit came only after he severed intimacy entirely. By then, she was already emotionally single. Janelle endured his neglect longer than she should have, still clinging to the vestiges of affection until the illusion collapsed. Mary's marriage, meanwhile, died so long ago it deserves an archaeological dig. None of these women truly left him. He had vacated those relationships long before they made it official. And yet, in Kody's narrative, he's still the wounded patriarch, baffled that his children have turned on him after all he's provided. But financial support, camera time, and nostalgia for the days when he occasionally played dad don't erase years of neglect. The show gave him wealth, but not wisdom. If Kody wants to know why his family dissolved, he need only look at the one relationship he never nurtured, the one with his own children. Everything else fell apart merely as a consequence.
When the other wives left, Robin didn't lose her marriage, she lost her afterlife. Among the rubble of the Brown family's imploded plural marriage, one figure still clings to the celestial delusion that started it all: Robin. While the other wives have managed to pry themselves free from the warped theology that bound them to a single man's ego, Robin appears trapped. Spiritually, emotionally, and perhaps even strategically, within the very dogma that promised her eternal glory. From the beginning, Robin's motivations have been dressed up as faith, but stitched together with self-interest. She entered the family as the devoted believer, armed with soft tears and sanctimony, selling herself as the spiritually refined addition who would elevate the family's celestial chances. In truth, she seemed far more interested in religious superiority than in sisterhood or shared sacrifice. The competition among the wives wasn't an inconvenience, it was a proving ground. Polygamy wasn't a trial of faith, it was Robin's ladder to heaven. Her moral compass has always seemed to point conveniently toward her own benefit. She would never have tolerated sharing a husband unless she believed it guaranteed her a higher seat in the afterlife. And a starring role on television didn't hurt. She secured a father figure for her children, financial stability, and fame, all under the guise of divine purpose. Unfortunately, reality TV fame proved hollow. Kody turned out to be more tantrum than patriarch, and the family's financial security evaporated as quickly as Robin's tears. What remains is a woman frantically clutching the last thread of validation she has left: her supposed closeness to God. That desperation bleeds through every moment of her recent behavior. Her insistence that Kody reconcile with Janelle, while conveniently indifferent to Christine's exit, wasn't about harmony, it was about arithmetic. 3 wives are the sacred number in her doctrine for celestial elevation. When Mary finally broke her seal, Robin lost more than an ally. She lost her theological insurance policy. Now,
With Janelle inching toward her own spiritual release, Robin's entire belief system teeters on collapse. Her rumored interest in adding another wife isn't born of generosity or spiritual revival. It's panic. She doesn't want to share Kody, money, or resources. She just needs the head count. Polygamy for her isn't about family. It's a math problem with eternal consequences. Beneath the religious rhetoric, Robin's struggle is less about Kody's failures and more about her own spiritual identity crisis. The other wives have renounced Joseph Smith's celestial pyramid scheme, but Robin hasn't. Even her comments about plural marriage reveal someone still indoctrinated, unable or unwilling to untangle her self-worth from the promise of heavenly hierarchy. Now, stripped of status, wealth, and sister wives, Robin faces the unthinkable. She may have to question whether her eternal marriage was just another earthly scam. The woman once obsessed with celestial status is now tethered to a monogamous man with a midlife crisis and dwindling income. If that isn't karmic symmetry, what is? Whether she retreats back to the AUB or reinvents herself in a more palatable Christian framework, cross necklaces and all, remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. Robin Brown's devotion has always had less to do with God and more to do with ensuring that when Judgment Day comes, she can still feel superior to everyone else. Stay with me. We're not done dissecting the monster under the moral microscope.